So hello everybody, it is me, Demetra K, and I am sitting here with Donovan, the recovering Democrat Sadiq, and it is the Demetra K Show. It's the podcast, so I should say that it is not live. You are watching a recording, but from time to time, I'll pop in the comment section and just kind of see the conversation, just to see what it's like, to see if we need to improve on something, but just really to see how you guys are feeling the conversation. And so it's not live, to say the least. So today we are going to be continuing talking about the crash that happened in Los Angeles, Windsor Hill, where the traveling nurse, Nicole Linton, has been charged with second-degree manslaughter and gross vehicular manslaughter and all those things. 6 counts. They could not count the baby because in California, an unborn fetus is not really considered a life. Go figure, right?
Pro-choice. We can have the right to kill. We want
the right. No. So she has been charged, and we're going to get into a little bit of that. And we're also going to talk about Trump. They done ran up in Mar-a-Lago. So Donovan is actually going to take the lead on that. And that's going to be about half an hour through. So Donovan, what say you before we get started?
Hey, what say you? Hey, welcome to the Demetra K podcast. You guys are awesome. You are welcome. Please do us a favor, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Do you know what really helped us defeat their algorithm? When you guys share this on your own platform, because I'm very sure, just like myself and Demetra, you have family members that are just totally brainwashed by the lamestream media, the blackstream media, and all this stuff, the old Roro Martins and stuff like that. So Demetra and I have an old saying: just keep talking to them, just keep putting the stuff out there, and there's, they're going to make their own decision, but how can you refute common sense and fact? So do us a favor, share it on your platforms, and then if you really want to stay in tune and you're sitting in traffic right now, and and sometimes you're sitting in traffic, you don't know what time it is because you got that burger, you stopped and got that Taco Bell, or whatever you got, as you're sitting there and you're not twerking in traffic, Houston, you become a subscriber. Become a subscriber, and then all the great videos Demetra puts up, you will be announced and notified when Demetra puts up some of that great content. So let's get into it.
So again, everybody, there are new charges that have come out against the traveling nurse who is actually from Houston, and she was traveling to Los Angeles, working at Kaiser Permanente Hospital there. And I'm going to put up a video so to kind of refresh your memory of what happened. So check this out. So as you saw there, that was the accident that took place on last Thursday, where they said she was barreling through Slauson and La Brea. That's an intersection that say is very dangerous. They said to the tune of almost 100 miles an hour. She was not injured, but 6 lives were lost, including that of a mother and her unborn child, her son, and the father of the child to be. And the child to be was 8.5 months in the womb. So in my opinion, I'm like, they should have charged her with that as well, because the baby could have survived at that point out of the womb. Also, there's 2 other women who are unidentified, and a man, Clifford, I forget his name, forgive me, Pritchard. He, a 66-year-old man, sounded like he was a pedestrian in the area at the time. And then there was also an SUV full of people who were injured. They did not die, but they were injured, and a couple of other people with debris and things like that. And so there was a rumor, and a friend of hers, who I guess the authorities are trying to figure out who she is, said that she had just been drinking with them before that happened. But the DA in this case said this.
Criminal charges in connection with last Thursday's tragic crash. In an instant, Ms. Linton alleged conduct to the lives of 6 people and injured many others. her vehicle, sheer car, that exploded into flames. There's catastrophic damage to the families and friends of those killed and injured. It's not only a tremendous loss to the families, but to our entire community who learned of this incredible tragedy or watched the now viral video of the collision. I'm sure this is a great time of great sorrow for grieving, for the families grieving and friends of those who will forever be affected by this. My office will do all the work that we can with the families during this difficult time. Our Bureau of Victim Services will provide services and assistance.
Okay. So they're basically, outlining what happened, and what they're going to do. So again, she is still being held on $9 million bond, $9 million. Her attorney was asking for, her to get out and it to be reduced, but the judge was like, no, we are not going to reduce the bond there. So she was to do 10%. That's nearly $1 million. Is it $1 million? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, well, they wanted $1 million plus, but then her attorney said that reasonably what she could probably afford is $300,000, and the judge said absolutely not. Based on
because of what she did. Now I should also say that they said that at the time they did not see any evidence of her being drunk while driving, but they also said because the paramedics gave her a lot of pain medication on the scene, and so that's kind of why it may be difficult, but they're still trying to figure it out. They're also trying to find the friend that said, she was with us and she was upset arguing with her boyfriend and she was drinking, and that was right before that happened. All right, so it should also be said too that Miss Nicole had 13 prior crashes before this one. 13 prior crashes, some serious, from what they're saying. And so it's like, wow, 13. And this is, this is obviously the final one, because at this point, she's looking at doing 90 years to life if convicted on those charges. If all of them, obviously, she could be doing life, but they're saying 90 to life is what she's looking at. And so this was her, at the hearing and all of that, obviously very devastating to learn that, that's your fate potentially. Now, they're saying that the prosecutors are saying this. They need to be, well, they're saying this about the prosecution. They need to be able to prove that she was unaware of her actions and what her actions might cause. And so they said, with us knowing that she had 13 prior crashes, this is not going to be hard to prove, because there's she has a propensity to do vehicular damage while behind the wheel. And so I don't know, y'all, we're going to discuss this. And I want to really ask about the accountability part of it. 13 prior crashes, and the 14th one is a major one that has sent a ripple, as a DA Gascon has said, not just throughout those families, but through the community and everybody else who saw the video, who was there, the poor lady who the baby landed in front of her after the crash. And so there's a lot of people who are going to have things to deal with. So I want to talk about the accountability issue. At what point in time do you self-regulate and say, okay, my black ass can't drive, or whatever it is, right? So Donovan, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, that was a great soliloquy and opening in regards to this case. Once again, this is another person from the city of Houston. We've got Brittany Griner from Houston. Now we've got this lady. And I'm not saying, this Houston thing. I'm just saying it's just funny how these national things, everything's coming out of Texas, which is very straight. In the court, she had her sister that was there. And one of the reasons why they also did not want to give her bail was the mere fact that she was a traveling nurse. So she doesn't really have residency, even though she's lived in California for over a year. And because she doesn't really have any family ties here, they denied bail based on that. So if she had like her mom, her aunt, and like a slew of family members, I'm not saying they would have given her bail, but she would have had a better chance at getting on bail. I also want to bring up the fact that her attorney, I'm not sure if he's court appointed right now or did they retain an attorney. He brought up the fact that she has had ongoing mental health for a while now. So I don't know if that's in regards to those driving incidents. I don't know how long that is, but the attorney was also trying to get bail or change the venue of her mental health state to get her out of the jail and into a treatment facility to where she could better and properly be served to deal with her mental issues. And I thought that was a good point, because sitting her, in jail, that's really not going to help her mental state, especially knowing what she's going to be facing. But I'm not an attorney. I'm not a law enforcement official, so I couldn't tell you that. And also, I want everybody to kind of notice this. Isn't it funny when regular people get into trouble, justice is very swift, charges come very fast. And there's no doubt this woman's charges should have came fast. Donald Trump, and I know that's a presidential thing, look how slow it's taking for them to even charge the man. And I'm just playing devil's advocate here, Dimitri. You might see where I'm going with this or whatever. Shouldn't they have taken their time before they charged her, because they don't know the whole end? I'm just, you know what I mean? It's kind of crazy. The average person, boom, you get charges just like that. But when you're the president and, the leader of white supremacy, they take their sweet ass time.
Well, I think we're conflating the issues here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Donald Trump and this lady have absolutely nothing to do with each other. I guess I kind of get where you're going with that.
Mm-hmm.
They have absolutely nothing to do with each other. This lady, Nicole Linton, had 13 prior incidents. And yes, like you said, her lawyer evoked the fact that she has well-documented mental health issues. But my thing is this, because, I'm not even going to play devil's advocate. I'm just going to keep it real. Mm-hmm. You got well-documented mental health issues, plus 13, at least is what the wording was, at least 13 other crashes. Why are you still on the road? Who? And like you said, she's from Houston, Texas, where I know they kind of liberal with a lot of things, just depending. They let people out on bonds who got murdered, raps, and all kind of stuff. So it's kind of, and let me just get this out the way. Being from California, Southern California, I can honestly say you people in Houston cannot drive, okay? Y'all can't drive. Y'all drive reckless and crazy and stupid. Most people I've seen got bumps and fender benders all on the cars, and it's a lot, right? So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but let me get back and be serious for real though. So she's got mental issues documented, and she's got well-documented issues with driving. I want to know, why is she on the road? In addition to her being a nurse, an ER nurse or ICU nurse, she sees the gravity of what happens to people. I'm sure she has, that have been in car accidents, whatever, when she's drinking and driving. They say they don't know just yet. So why would you, with all those things going on, you have a bad driving history, you have mental health issues, and you're a nurse, and you've seen those things play out, why are you still behind the wheel? And the other thing too is, I don't want to bring Trump into this, is because if, God forbid, that was my family that had been ran through like that, to where people said that they can hear them screaming in those burning cars. And that is something you will never forget. And the last thing I will want, and I'm not saying this by you, Donovan, I'm just saying, last thing is I would want for somebody to say, well, what about Trump? Because that is her ass whooping to take. I'm sorry. Right. There was, like I said, there was no breaking, there was no nothing. It's just like I don't wish jail on anybody, and not that she did what Ahmaud Arbery's killers did, but they're the same thing. Like, well, I think we should go to Club Fed. That's what they call it when they send people to federal prison. Mm-hmm. We don't want to go to Georgia. Well, it's like, Ahmaud didn't want to be dead either. So right. Lady, she wants to go to a mental health facility. They got that shit in jail, in prison. They got some things in there where they can, help you get your mind together. Right. And I would imagine you would have a schism like, damn, I'm free as a bird. I was driving a nice big body Mercedes, and she's a traveling nurse. And then the other thing too, during the bond hearing, her lawyer was like, well, she's got a gig in Hawaii. She was supposed to go do be a nurse. Like, do you think?
Yeah, that was kind of crazy to bring that up based on the situation.
So when I that, I heard out of touch with reality. Like, I know I just mowed down all these people. However,
And children.
I got stuff to do.
Right.
You know?
And children. Right. But looking at the arraignment, I really felt a sense of compassion for her, because let's just face, remember, you guys, I'm a military man, so I've seen a lot of destruction and death and all that other stuff being in the Middle East for a lot of years. You can't help but feel a bit of compassion for her, because, we know what she's facing. The reality actually is hitting her. She looked at her sister and started bawling because, it ain't going to be no more driving. It ain't going to be, like you said, 90 years. But no matter what we do, we can't bring those people back. And God bless them. And, and all the good stuff that you want to say. Like I said, tragedy. It was a tragedy. Was it malicious? Depending on how you look at it. If you're taking pills and you're on medication to get behind the wheel, you should know better. Like you said, she's a nurse and all this other stuff. But at the same time, I kind of think, like, for me, and this is just me, I have compassion. I'm not saying she's not going to get punished. I'm saying I have compassion for her because it wasn't malicious. I don't think she, like, I'm going to mow people down and just do it. It was just reckless, stupid decision to get behind the wheel at that rate of speed on surface streets and do what she did. But just looking at her face and seeing the raw human emotion of what she was facing, I could not help but feel sorry for her. I could not help but feel sorry for her.
So yeah, I just want to put the picture up when you said that. She clearly, that is somebody who is really, and as y'all can see as well, it seems like she's in a wheelchair. She had a bandage on her arm from the accident. So yeah, just looking at the picture, you could tell that she is wrought with, I think it really was wrought with, I don't even think it's grief, to be honest. And listen, I don't know this lady, so I don't want to say she doesn't feel anything for those victims. I just think that she is, I think she's grieving what is to happen to her.
Right.
Just to listen to her attorney say, oh, well, she had a somewhere she's supposed to be working in Hawaii in a couple of days. And this is during the bond hearing where they're trying to justify why she should be out. And like you said, the judge was like, nah, she could really be a flight risk because that's what she does for a living, is travel. And she's not from here. But so I have a hard time really believing that crying was solely for those people who will never, ever, be here again. I think that was really for herself. And I am a very compassionate person. I would just say that I'm a very compassionate person. I think a lot of people know that. But I don't have a lot of compassion for her because she's had 13 other incidents to where at least one of those should have been a warning, because those of y'all who read the Bible says what? Destruction comes, what is it?
Before the fall.
Yeah, pride comes before a fall, or destruction before a warning, or something. I got it all wrong, but y'all know what I'm saying. So basically, she's had 13 other times to screw her head all right and say, okay, can I drive? Or do I need to go back to driving lessons? Or is it something organically going on with me that's causing me to do that? And so I don't feel compassion for her because, again, like I said, she had an opportunity to realize I can't drive. And let's say she was drunk. They say they don't have any evidence right now that she was. That's a whole different thing as well. But who I feel sorry for is those people who were going to, the cases that we know about, was going to a prenatal appointment, in hopes of having a little baby soon. And they're not going to be able to do that in a blink of an eye.
Whole family wiped out.
Their whole family was taken out. And she's sitting on the curb and she's going to live to tell about it. And so the worst that could have happened to her is death. And I think in this scenario, the best is going to prison and being able to live to, I don't know, do what, but you're alive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anne Hecht, the actress, she was in something kind of similar. Yes. It's just kind of funny how, this kind of happened within days of each other. And a real quick story, my nephew last night was involved in an accident. He was hit in an intersection, I believe, and survived. The car was totaled. I saw the picture of the car. Thank God, he was blessed to have survived that. He's a little shaken up, but he's okay. But, you got to think of the, not just the people who were deleted and killed in that accident, but think of the loved ones who are now left behind and will not see the baby grow up and see the niece and the people be family. I mean, it's just a total destruction. And in the modern age, for me, I do not have any compassion for drunk drivers for the simple fact now you can't use the excuse the buses had stopped running. There are not enough taxis. You can Uber and, get to where you need to go and do all those other things. So, I mean, with technology, a lot of excuses are running out, but yet people still feel they can get behind the wheel, even though they might have people around them. And it's so sad because if you look at the numbers of deaths related to accidents, it's not going down. As a matter of fact, it's going up.
Yeah, I mean, and so again, I think this is really a conversation about accountability. And again, I'm not wishing prison on anybody because I always say there, but for the grace of God go I, that, any bad situation or decision, that could be any one of us. And so I pray every day that it's not me because I'm not the prison type of chick, just to keep it real. But, I'm sure she wasn't the prison, sentence type of chick either. I've seen other photos of her, very beautiful. Seemed like she had a lot going on for herself. We know that nurses make a lot of money, and especially traveling nurses. So she had a lot going on for herself. But I really, like I said, I think this is a conversation about accountability because when do you check yourself and say, because when I see and think about people like that, admittedly, I don't know a lot about her, only know from what I've read, for what's been put out. But when I hear about and see people like that, y'all remember the scene from Training Day where Denzel's character was like, I'm King Kong, he was like, was saying, I'm unstoppable. And, as Sheree Whitfield on Atlanta Housewives, she says, who gonna check me, boo? That's what I get. Those are the vibes that I get because at some point in time, you have to say, self, you've had quite a few accidents. Are you driving too fast? Or do you need to go back and get retrained? You know what I mean? At some point, you have to do that to yourself because as they always would say when, to parents back in the day, if you don't get him, the system's going to get him. If you don't check yourself, somebody eventually is going to check you. And unfortunately, this her reality check came at the expense of other people who were just simply going about their everyday lives. I think it said it was about like 1:00 or so in the afternoon. So they were going about their lives. And their lives are no more because she could not check herself. And you got to admit, there's got to be a little bit of arrogance in that I've got 13 prior crashes and I'm just, continuing to go on. And it's that to me, that's reeks of ego issues.
Absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly, but we're in a society where you can't tell anybody nothing. You can't tell these young men nothing. Hey, pull your pants up. You can't tell these men, you're not going to get a job with blue and pink hair, looking like Dennis Rodman in the corporate world. You're not going to get a job with tattoos all over your face. Oh, don't say nothing to them, baby. We're in a society now where nobody is held accountable for what they do in regards to relationships between men and women. You can't tell a woman nothing in regards to that. A man telling a woman anything or a woman telling a man anything. So this is where we're at. And like you said, it breeds an air of arrogance in the population as a whole. Well, he did it, so I should be able to do it. She did it, so I should be able to do it. And this is where we're at in regards to the regular serfs and people on the regular level. It's just, it's sad. And it's just sad because, again, how many people realize driving is a privilege? It's not a right. But a lot of people think wow, she's really nice looking. They really feel that it's their right to drive. No, it's a privilege. And that this is why when you drive, there are certain things that you must have if you want that privilege. You must have insurance. You must give your license over if directed to by a law enforcement official. If they direct you out of your car, you must do so by a law enforcement official. And a lot of people take that out of context because they don't know their basic rights and they don't know the difference between rights and privileges.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to put this picture up because I know the media is kind of
she's very pretty. Yeah, it's very pretty.
Yeah, they've been circulating, the photo of her that's
crying.
disheveled and distraught. Yeah. So I think it's only fair to put up a picture of her, who she would probably want people to see her as. But I don't,
Maybe I should go and visit her and on behalf of the Demetria K Show and just get the real scoop. What do you think?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe I should just, follow the case for us and kind of be, on the scene.
Right. So obviously very beautiful young woman, 37 years old.
Mixed. She looks mixed.
Yeah, 37 years old. She's got, she has a lot going for herself. She did anyway, but.
Do you know if she has any children?
It doesn't say if she does or not. I don't know.
Because if she does, it's going to be a tragedy.
Yeah. But, at the end of the day, they can visit their mama in prison. You know what I mean?
That is true.
And listen, I don't want to sound like I'm being cold-hearted or anything like that. I just like to put myself in the shoes of people, per se, like the victim,
the victims,
their family. And I wouldn't want to hear people making excuses for that, because there was no excuse. Now, worst case scenario, maybe her brakes went out, whatever, it could be a defense. Anything is plausible. Yeah, she still has to go through the court process to, they'll have a trial and
her defense attorneys are going to be looking into manufacturing defects. That's, to me, you got to. I mean, at a case like this, when it's videotaped like that, what else could you go for? What else can you go for?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of things that they're going to have to look into. A good lawyer will, they're going to have. I'm sure she's going to have a great defense. So anything's plausible. I mean, it could very well be the case that her brakes went out and she's not a bad person after all. And
real quick, I'm going to cut you off. Do you remember a few years ago? Remember when those Toyota cars, the accelerator would get stuck and people were like accelerating because the clutch or whatever got stuck, and they were finding there was a defect in the manufacturer. So hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, and she's driving a Mercedes, and so they will look and see if there's any recalls or anything like that in regards to the braking system. So there's a lot of things. So as I was saying, she may not be a bad guy. I don't necessarily call her a bad guy. I think she made a very bad mistake. But after a while, you would have to question, it doesn't make you a bad person if you keep doing the same thing 13, now 14 times. And this 14th time was actually a mistake that you cannot walk back, because one thing is for sure, is you can always get a new car, or the other person can get a new car, but they cannot replace a life. And so it's just kind of, this is a sad case all the way around. I can just, if I can just put myself in her shoes for a minute, I can imagine having everything going for myself. You're free as a bird. You probably got all the means and the resources to go travel and do everything you want to do. And then really in the blink of an eye, you are no longer able to do that. You are detained and you are now mandated to, the jail. And it's got to be a lot. And it would be a mental schism. But again, at the very least, you can live to tell about it and maybe help somebody. God forbid she does. This was her fault and it wasn't a defect or anything like that. She still has a lot of life to where she can, actually help people, maybe behind bars or whatever. But the little boy's father, because baby Alonzo had a different father, he says, I want her to pay for what she did to my son. He says, my son was the most loving, beautiful, his smile lit up the room. And he said, it just brought him great joy. Like when his son would laugh, he said he would, clap his hands together, and so he says, that this is a pain that he'll never get over, but he doesn't want her to get away with it. He says, but once she's paid for what she's done, then he could see maybe forgiving her. But he says, as of now, I'm going through too much pain to even think about doing that. So
that's the one thing people always got to remember, that surviving these incidences, these people, like you said, they can live. I mean, it's not a great existence, but you're alive. Your loved ones can visit you, and you're going to have TV. You're going to have whatever they have in prison. So those other people aren't coming back. There's a famous saying in the movie. It's called Unforgiven by Clint Eastwood. He said it's one hell of a thing, killing a man, killing a person. You take all they've got, all they ever will have. So that puts you in a very, very powerful position. So, but her being a nurse, I'm very sure practicality wise, they're still going to let her use her expertise in prison, which helps a lot of prisoners, and it also helps the staff. I'm very sure, if that's the route that she is going. But again, in this country, you're innocent until proven guilty. Of course, that trope was said way before video cameras and all these other things that are going on. We saw what we saw. And like I said, this is just a tragedy all the way around. And I just can't view the thoughts of doing that. Now, as a military person, we do things a little bit different, but you just think of the PTSD, the people that witnessed that crash. And in regards to Ann Heck, if you guys saw what happened to her, they're kind of speculating that she might have had a mental schism break. If you guys saw the video, did you see the part where they were putting her in the ambulance and she jumped up? So I guess she must have been unconscious and then it jumped up out of a burning. I mean, she was still in the vehicle of the house she crashed in. The neighbor got the other two people out, and because of the smoke and stuff, he didn't, he's like, I can't get to her, whatever. So he pretty much, said, it's done, she's going to be, a dead body. And sure enough, they went in there and they retrieved her. And if you see her going in there, she jumped up, and hopefully we'll get some information in regards to that. But let me add this to it. And you brought it up several times. Mental illness in the United States is a very, very serious thing. A lot of Black people don't think that they have mental illness, but they suffer from post-traumatic slavery disorder. That's a mental illness within itself. That's why we do the things we do as a people. So there's nothing wrong with getting your cabeza checked out. For those that don't know Spanish, that means head. Getting your head checked out. There's nothing wrong with somebody evaluating you. Why is it that we can go to our car and we can say, oh, I got to get the oil change. Oh, I got to get a tune-up. We are so good at making sure a vehicle or an airplane has to be tuned up at its proper time, but we don't do nothing for ourselves. And I mean, if it works for your vehicle, why wouldn't it work for us?
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. And I'm a big proponent of mental wellness. I think it's very important, even if you don't feel like you have anything going on, because a lot of people think you got to be going crazy, to go talk to somebody. A lot of people who aren't crazy per se talk to somebody so that they don't go crazy, right? Or talk to somebody so you can have some little checks and balances, or you have some feelings that you can't really process. That's what a mental health expert is, because a lot of people aren't always psychologists or psychiatrists. Sometimes they're just like mental wellness coaches and things like that. They help you kind of go through the process. And so, I impress upon everybody to try it once. You don't have to have a topic, although some people do go to the therapist and say, you know what, this is kind of what's going on with me here, or I had this and that happen. As you guys know, recently, what was it? This year? Last year. I think it was last year. Or earlier this year, I had to go to a mental health professional because I was struggling with some things. Not that I was, thinking about taking myself out of here, nothing like that. But, sometimes a lot of things happen to us, and we have a hard time understanding why and how to process it. And so I went and talked to somebody, and I had a few sessions with her, and she helped me realize, some things that I already knew, but things that I need to actually practice. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. And like Donovan said, go get your head checked out. And a lot of times, not even really your head, it's your heart, it's your emotions. It's the things that we go through, the trauma and the drama in life. And a lot of times you can't just keep sweeping stuff under the rug and say, oh, that happened to me. Okay, I'm all right now. Let me sweep that under the rug, or let me put this bag in the closet. Sometimes you actually have to unpack those bags so that you don't take those bags to your next situation or where it is you're going in life. And so, Donovan, what's going on with Trump?
Yes. You guys have heard, and it's kind of crazy. The people on the far left is all excited and stuff, and they're going to get him, and people are, you guys have all seen the memes and stuff, and people on your Facebook page, they just raided Mar-a-Lago, whatever. When I heard about that for the first time, I was like, they're probably going there to get the archive stuff that he probably thought was his, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But as you guys know, yesterday, Donald Trump, the 45th former president of the United States, his property was raided by the FBI, and they had a warrant, which, to take take the precedence of raiding a former president's property, that had to get signed off by a lot of people. Merrick Garland, probably Joe Biden himself. They have to go all the way to the top because that was unprecedented. That it has been unprecedented that has happened, but it has happened. And Donald Trump put out a statement saying that they broke into my house and all. He made it seem like it was like an invasion of his privacy and stuff, and it really wasn't. It was a standard warrant. No problem. And, people, use your critical thinking skills when dealing with stuff like this. Stop getting the red meat and going, use your critical thinking skills. A few months ago, the National Archives requested that Donald Trump files and paperwork was missing. So let me give you guys a history lesson real quick. When you run for the president of the United States, or when you run as a senator, or if you run as a congressman, your paperwork is no longer yours. There's a lot of items that you do and a lot of things that we pay for that you use at your expense, at our expense, that is not yours. And so in the likelihood of that, let's say, let me give you an example. Demetra is a senator and somebody gives her some gifts. They want to give her this nice red lipstick because they think she looks good with the red lipstick, or they want to give her this, they want to give her that. That property is not Demetra K's. That property is the people's property. Yeah, she can use it. There's no problem about that. But when she's done being a senator, she has to account for that. And as we know, Donald Trump took 15 boxes out of the White House. And you really can't say he did it because we know that he didn't pack his own stuff. And it went down to Mar-a-Lago and they found in National Archives things were missing. What certain things were missing? A letter from the North Korean dictator, Kim Jong-un, that was written to Donald Trump. Now, the average person would say, well, that's a personal letter to me. That is not a personal letter to you. You are the president of the United States. You represent the people. We are a republic. That is the people's property that must go into the National Archives. So that is what everybody's, getting all excited like this is going to mean something. Now, Donald Trump is surrounded by Secret Service members post-presidency. They get that privilege unless they waive it. You don't think that the FBI called their buddy and said, hey, Steve, we just got a warrant that was signed off by Judge so-and-so at the federal so-and-so, go through the whole spill. What's Donald Trump's schedule? Well, the best time to come down would probably be, he's going to New York on Thursday. So why don't you come down on Thursday? That way it'll be a quick thing. You can come in and do it without this hubbub. Okay, great idea, Steve. Okay, I'm just letting you guys know, give you a professional heads up. That's what we're going to do. Don't you guys think that that's what happened? So while he's down there, the FBI raids, here's what I think happened. You guys remember the plain view doctrine. That is a true statement. A plain view doctrine means anything that the police can see in their plain view could potentially become criminal. So if Donald Trump had his drugs sitting in his Mar-a-Lago appointment on his desk, they can seize those drugs and charge him for such a crime and such a crime and such a crime. So you don't think that his Secret Service agents, by the way, who deleted text messages from January 5th and 6th, did not secure what they should secure before the FBI came? I think they did. And so they went down there, they secured evidence. Most likely it's just archive stuff for the National Archives. Can he be charged for crimes and things like that? Because they're saying that they did find super national secret stuff. I was in the military, you're supposed to get rid of that stuff or declassify it and all this other stuff, just like the Secret Service did with their phones. Well, it's standard practice to wipe our phone. Yeah, okay, got it. Just on that particular day, you just had to do that. So, which is a crime. But Donald Trump, who is the leader of white supremacy, do you think they're going to charge him with arbitrarily taking national top secret stuff to his home that he thought possibly could have been his? What do you think, Demetra?
So, you hit on a lot of things. So one thing right here is, as a president, he does have the ability to declassify certain things. So he can declassify documents and other things while he's the president. So that's the issue, okay? Did he declassify those things before he left? And if he didn't, the other question is, as a former president, does he still have the right to declassify the items that he took. They took 15 boxes from his house, ultimately, they being the FBI. What's in those boxes, like Donovan said, is probably a letter from this person, that person, things like that. So that's where the issue is. The other issue is was there any intent? Did he knowingly take some things that he knew he wasn't supposed to be taking? And is there something nefarious going on? Was he going to do something with those documents, like some world secrets, or to, give it to somebody? Another thing Donovan said is he doesn't pack his own boxes. So it's very likely whoever packed his boxes, now I would think the movers would have to be background checked and all of that. Maybe it was some sort of a, secret detail movers. I don't know. But let's say they didn't know they weren't supposed to take this box and they took it anywhere, whatever. And we also know that Trump he was not actively in his overalls getting stuff off the moving, you know what I mean? So whoever packed and unpacked, so there's doubt, right? There's doubt in the mix as did Trump do any of these things, willingly and knew he was doing something bad. Now, the other thing is he did give red meat to his base in that this is what they did to me. Oh, they ran up in Mar-a-Lago. They came in here and kicked it all in. And because what we do know is that there were some protesters, if you will. I don't know, maybe at this point there's supporters that were outside of Mar-a-Lago and they were playing music and, waving their flags, getting into arguments with people who were like good for, them for running up in his house and all of that. But it's kind of the same thing he did with that of January 6th. I was robbed. They, stole the election from me. And so, Trump has got a lot of other issues in regards to that calling the Secretary of State in Georgia, saying, hey, I need you to find some votes because I think I was cheated, and a whole bunch of other chicanery that Trump has been involved in. And so ultimately, if you're asking me, I know you didn't, but if you're asking me, what is this ultimately about? I think it's kabuki theater, in that the Democrats know what the American people want, and that's their base. Because think about the Democrats' base. The Democrats' base right now is shaky. We don't want Joe Biden. Joe Biden hasn't done this. Joe Biden hasn't done that. And he's sending another, truckloads of money to Ukraine, and he's justifying doing it. So they know that the base in the Democratic Party is not secure. And so this would be some sort of a symbolic win for them if they can at least say we ran up in his house. I personally don't think that they're trying to do anything to Trump, because if they wanted to do something to Trump, they have a whole lot of stuff they can do something to Trump for. And this is kind of very, very shaky and weak. And ultimately, the other question is, if he is, charged with something and ultimately found guilty, would he be able to run for president? Because that's the one thing they don't want him to do, is run for president again, because you know why? He has a very damn good chance of winning. So there's a lot going on here.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny that the day that they raided him, where was Donald Trump? He was in New York. Why was he in New York yesterday? He was doing a deposition in regards to Tisha James's claim on Trump properties up there. Remember, he fought that for almost 8 months. He wasn't going to do it. And I guess his kids did it a couple of weeks ago. Then he was up there to do it. And of course, the Secret Service said, yeah, he's going to be in, this is the best time to do it. He'll be in New York and stuff like that, whatever the deal is. But also, let's think about this too. The Democrats are hurting really, really bad. So let's go back in history a little bit. Kevin McCarthy, the minority leader in the House, openly admitted the Benghazi trial against Hillary Clinton was done just to keep her name out there and to smear her as she was getting ready to run for president. How successful were they at that? They were so successful that this idiot admitted it. That was the whole point of the Benghazi trials, is to make her look bad in the public eye. So with all of these things going on and this mega raid, I agree with you. I mean, it's all kabuki theater to make everything, oh, we finally got it. Because remember, a lot of people voted against Trump and put in a worse racist because their feelings were hurt. They don't like the way he's conducting himself. Oh, he's not presidential. Anybody but Trump. These are the people that voted this man out because they didn't like him, but also don't have the wherewithal to know some of the policies that he did that was actually trying to help Black people and do things to protect the American economy and all these other things like that. Was he a total butthole? Absolutely. Was this guy a freaking idiot? He still is. Cheats on his wife with porn stars and all this other stuff. I mean, the guy is just a total dirtbag. But if you're voting for a politician, if you're voting your interest because a politician insults you or not, I think you're one of the people, in my opinion, that should not partake in the political process because you obviously don't know what you're doing.
Absolutely. And, in regards to Hillary and Benghazi, it was in regards to the emails and all that. Who was that said, what did you know and when did you know it? Was it during Watergate?
Yeah, it was during Watergate, right.
And that's really what came to mind is like, y'all knew all of this. Because Hillary hadn't been in, Secretary of State for quite a while up until the time she was running. And so y'all knew all of that, before. So it's like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, Benghazi. So he's absolutely right. I mean, even and McCarthy even now is pissed off because they done ran up into Trump's, vacation spot, Mar-a-Lago. And so they don't like it that it's done to them. But that's absolutely a political strategy. Let's keep their name out there tied to some nonsense so that the American, because that was the one thing most people kept saying, the emails. And most people probably didn't even know what the emails was. They just know it was something to do with some emails. So we're going to keep on talking about Hillary in the emails. And so that's, like I said, that's absolutely a political strategy to keep that politician or the candidate tied to some mess. And it also keeps in the mind, in the forefront of people, well, I don't know what's really going on. Doesn't sound good because that's how propaganda works. It doesn't have to be true, and more than likely it's not. But you just like you keep repeating it and putting it out there. Eventually the lie sounds like the truth, and they do it to people. And I did my thesis on rhetoric and propaganda. And to me, my thesis was that it completely works on the ignorant people who won't say, that sounds good. Like in the case of Hitler, and the people that he was able to, get one over on. That sounds plausible, but let me, because you look like me. You got brown hair and brown eyes, but you're talking about the master races that are blonde hair and blue eyes. So some in the milk ain't clean. Let me do some research and I get back to you. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when they're talking about Benghazi, that was one thing. But what was the one thing that Trump? It's kind of ironic that Trump said on the campaign trail, "Lock her up." She knocked the servers out and all this other stuff, right? Isn't it ironic? He did the exact thing that he was accusing her. Well, supposedly, I'm sorry, let me say that, clarify. Allegedly, he did the same thing in regards to classified material. Classified material. He accused Hillary Clinton of subjugating classified material in the server she destroyed. Remember the servers that got destroyed and all this other stuff, and the emails, which was part of the server. Lock her up. Yeah, she shouldn't have done that. And lo and behold, he has 15 boxes, again, allegedly, of all this classified material that is now in his possession. And isn't it funny that his MAGA people that keep hollering, lock her up, aren't talking about lock him up, because it's their guy. Political theater, kabuki theater.
Absolutely. And as for those of you guys who were like wondering what the hell is kabuki theater, it's, basically politicians acting, they're putting on a show and they're doing it for the American people to believe that this and that and the other is going on when in essence ain't none of it going on, right? It's like watching The Wizard of Oz. At the end, you learn that there's this little bitty man behind the curtain and he was pulling all the bells and the whistles and had everybody thinking he was this big giant person. That's really what kabuki theater is in essence. But like I said, I don't think it means really anything. Trump knows they're not going to come and lock him up. They know they're not going to lock him up. But the people that don't know that is us. Well, we know. But I'm talking about the people who are so loyal to these parties because, just the insurrection alone, they got enough evidence to say, you know what? Trump was at the helm of this mess. He definitely needs to go down. He incited a riot. And that is against the law. You cannot do that. He did that. There's plenty of proof that he did it. It's been almost 2 years since the insurrection took place.
And the man's playing golf, doing his thing.
Yeah, he's out there living his best life while people are going up the river for 6, 7, 8 years. So, and this is how propaganda also works, because during a lot of his campaigning, he would say stuff like, go punch him in the face. I'll pay your lawyers. I'll pay your bail. And it's like, all right, Trump, you got a whole lot of people who are waiting for you to, because there's things he could have also did while he was president. Like, okay, let me go on and bless y'all. I'm going to just, pardon y'all or just whatever. There's things that he could have did. He didn't do it. But yet, he still has people out there who are protesting. And one thing is for sure. They thought the insurrection was bad. If they lock Trump up, which I don't think that they will, it's going to be hell to pay, because they didn't lock all the crazy cuckoo banana people up during the insurrection. There's still a whole lot of them out there who are probably like, you know what? This is how we got caught up last time. But if they do something to our Trump, trust that they in Congress, they know that. They was running and hiding under desk and all that other stuff January 6th. They ain't trying to do that again. So they know what's up. They know who the real, froggy people are in the country.
And you got to think about it like this too. We keep talking about white supremacy. Like you guys always talk about like white supremacists. So, there's no such thing or whatever. Well, you got to remember the military was complicit. They have top generals that were complicit in the insurrection. You don't have to wait on the president to give you an order to stop an insurrection. The National Guard of the Maryland or whatever, they could have easily have gone on there based on what they saw. Probable cause. I mean, so that goes to tell you there's a lot of people that are complicit with all of this. They're not going to let their stuff go down. They're not. White supremacy, be it they are in the minority, they don't have a problem being in the minority as long as they are in control. They have no problem with that. So right there, critical thinking. I see a crime. I'm a soldier. I'm, not a crime like in legal, that's not my business. But I see what I think is an insurrection. I see people going to the Capitol. I'm just supposed to sit there as a top general and not do anything? No, I'm supposed to protect the Constitution, just like Donald Trump was supposed to do it. We swear an oath to the Constitution. So all this, well, we didn't get any orders and we didn't get it. Look at the Secret Service that have wiped their out of all the days of messages that you were going to keep, the very 2 days that could tell us a lot of what was transpired between top officials, you happen to wipe those 2 days. But you got the 7th, the 8th, and 9th, and you got the 3rd and the 4th. But the 5th and the 6th, you don't have those. So, I mean, critical thinking, people, it's so sad, Demetra. Critical thinking is so lacking in the world, period. It's like the corporations have basically just taken over. So, it's just like the thing I sent you yesterday with the homeless issue. It seems to me that they want the corporations to control rental properties, basically. And mom and pop, the days of mom and pop, those days are over. And that was like another power grab. What is your take in regards to the upcoming homeless issue, which predominantly affects a certain group of people, which is Black single mothers? I mean, it's coming. It's coming down the pipe.
Well, yeah, it's coming. And I wouldn't even say it's coming. I would say that it's here. Of course, we know in Los Angeles, California, lots of places of California, they're getting rid of homeless encampments and things like that because it's becoming an eyesore for the rich, and the people who want to hang out in Los Angeles. But as far as the Black women being the most affected by the housing crisis, not being able to pay the rent or the mortgage, it's there, and there's things that we can do. A lot of the times they're saying that it's single Black mamas. Well, single Black mamas need to get with the baby daddies or, partner up with somebody because two can go farther than one. And people are single parents for a whole host of reasons, but it sure is nice to share the load with somebody, right? But I also say this, and I'm not blaming men at all. I just feel like if you have a baby mom that is facing homelessness and she, is the mother of your child, I think there's something that you I don't want to say should. Well, I'm gonna say should. I don't think anybody should have their baby mama, facing homelessness or sleeping in her car. There's things you can do. Because I'll tell y'all a story. My daughter's father and I have not been together since she was like 1, right? We broke up early for very good reasons. One day I'll tell y'all about it. But there was times, because he's actually from North Carolina, and I met him while he was in the Marines, and so he ended up staying in California. Everybody comes to California, want to stay, right? So he was having some issues. Now, mind you, this dude, I love him though. We've gotten over our issues 30 years later. He was not faithful to me. He had a lot going on. And when I say a lot going on, it was women's calling the house collect. That's when collect calls was fashionable back then. Hello, can I speak to Dre? This is Red. I'm like, who? Some chick he met up at the club. He told she could call collect. Anyway, it's a long story. So that's just one of the things that transpired between us at a very young age. And he became homeless one day. He needed a place to stay, and I had my apartment with my daughter, our daughter, I should say. And I said, you know what? To myself, I can't stand your black ass. For sure. Here's my couch for as long as you need it. Never was nothing going on or anything like that. He even needed some money. I had a little bit of that here. Sure, handle your business, because as much dirt as that dude did to me, like I said, I love him now. We've gotten over that. I would have been within my rights to say, hey, you finna be homeless, Negro. Tell me how that pavement feels on your back. But out of the sheer love for my daughter, I could not do that to her father, because for one, I knew that it was only him out here. And I did not ever want my daughter to know that her mom could not put her differences aside to allow her father to get some rest and peace on my couch. I could never do that. And so he stayed for like a month or so, and he was able to get on his feet and all that. But I'm saying that to say is, I told y'all that story because I don't want y'all to think that I'm coming off hard on men. But I'm saying as a woman that I was in that situation with my daughter's father, and I didn't see him on the street when I would have been well within my rights to do that.
Absolutely. I have another question in regards to that. Now, you're saying, and I'm wholeheartedly, you brothers that have children with these women, why are your baby mama's facing eviction and you're not going to do anything there to step in there? Because if she goes on the street, that means your child goes on the street too. So, why aren't these guys stepping up? But I have a question for you, Demetria. If I'm a woman and I have multiple baby daddies, who's going to, you know what I mean? And that's even a better question. Ladies, if you got multiple baby daddies, you mean to tell me not one of these guys are going to come or at least collectively, if the guys get together collectively and work to find a solution to your situation? What do you think about that? It's one thing like you had one baby daddy, so that's the issue. But the commonality is, in most cases in the modern day, women have at least 2 baby daddies.
Well, that's a fair question. And I think if you don't have 2 good baby daddies to rub together, it ain't their fault, it's yours, because you're choosing 2, and not my words, but a lot of other, women's words, 2 no good dudes or whatever. You slept with 2 no good dudes. And if you got 2 or 3 no good dudes and your ass is finna be homeless, that's your issue. That not one of them will say, you know what? I hate your guts, but one thing I will never do is see you on the street. If there's something I could do, whether I could put you up in a room or you come stay on my couch or whatever, I'm going to make sure that you are not homeless. Now, is it his obligation to take care of somebody else's kids? Because I know what somebody said. No, it's not. And I'm not even going to say it would make him a good dude to do that. I think that would make him a better human. And I'm not saying that if he doesn't do it, he's a horrible human. I think that would make him an evolved human. And I think that's what we should be striving for, as people to evolve and to be able to get over our differences. Now, is that something he should do? Put her up with other kids? No, but it would make him an evolved person for saying, those ain't my kids. I got 1 or 2 kids with you. You about to be homeless. Those kids about to be homeless. So this is what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to help you get on your feet or whatever it is. Maybe if I need to pay the back rent or whatever I need to do, right? And of course, because somebody's going to say, well, what if he's paying her child support? Well, she obviously is not in. I don't want to get into child support conversation because that's very it's a lot. But she needs to also conversation needs to be had with her as well. I'm paying child support. You finna be homeless. What are you willing to do to make it easier for me to do that? Are you willing to take me out the system and we can work on something from here or there so that we can both be better? If not, then hey, let me go and get custody of my kids and you take your bad and bougie, finna be on the street self, wherever you got to go, and I'll go get custody of my child because you do not have stable housing for it. So
I totally agree. And, before we get out of here, I just want to say this. If a real man, if, you have a baby mama and she has another father, couple fathers like that, real men get together and we solve the problem. I mean, so if there's 2 or 3 of us, it shouldn't be a problem for us to put her up together.
absolutely. And then, I hate to advocate anybody to having their children removed from them, but I tell y'all this all the time, because I think there's a lot of men who watch this show now and are new to watching the show, maybe sometimes get the impression that I'm one of those. I hate men. No, go back and watch the videos way back years and years ago. And I've always been middle of the road. But I don't like to advocate for anybody losing their child. However, I do tell fathers you do have the right to have custody of your children. And if you have had children with a mom who is not so stable or fit, it is not only your right as your duty to get your child and put them in a stable environment. Maybe the mom needs to be by herself so she can figure her life out. And then when she gets herself together, then, she can be a parent or full-time parent to that child. But there's never any excuse for a man to have his child out there. And yes, I said have your child out there, because if your child is going through it with a woman who is unfit, then that's your fault as well. And stop giving people the excuse, well, the courts, this, that, and the other. My mom used to always say, you get the last, you keep asking until you get the final no. And you'll know what that final no is, but you don't give up until that no takes place.
And real quick, just think of the psychological scars the child goes through. I don't care if it's your child or not, knowing that they have no place to live and they're watching their mom or their parent, or maybe the father, and they're out there on the streets, seeing the horrors that we know that go out there on the streets. You're putting that child in a perpetual cycle of nothingness, basically. And then knowing you as the father are living in your house or your apartment and you didn't do nothing to come and get them or to alleviate the situation. I had friends that I knew that their baby daddies were dirt bags, but I refused to not let those children eat. And I would go and get a pizza. I mean, it ain't much, but it's better than nothing. I went and got a whole big old pizza and I put it out there, and I told the kids, come on and eat and do, I did what I could. And so if you're all this black man, black woman, single parent, forget all that. It's about the children. See, and that's the problem. We keep forgetting. It's not about us. When you bring children in this world, it's not about us anymore. It's about those children. So yeah, I had a bad upbringing, but you know what? I'm not saying spoil your kids. That is not what I'm saying. But I don't want them to go through the horrors that they can go through out there on those streets that we as adults know are waiting for them.
Yep. And like you said, there's a lot of horrors out there. And so, we as Black people got to do something, because we should not be facing homelessness we're the most in the homeless population. And that's an issue. We need to fix it, do all that we can. I'll tell you a little story before we get out of here. One day this is when I was going through my struggle moments, if you will, but it was a job nevertheless. I was selling what they call the Obama phone. We can't really sell them. You just kind of give them to people who qualify for them. So I was out there, it's freezing cold. And I'm selling the phones. And this one guy, he was homeless. He comes up to me and he had actually lost his phone. And so he was trying to get another phone. And during the process, I was just talking to him and stuff. And he told me, and as a matter of fact, it was the day after Thanksgiving. So he says, I'm homeless. And he was like 23 years old. He says, I'm homeless. And you could tell he was cold. He didn't have very much on. And he says, I normally will go to the church and get something to eat, but being that it's the day after Thanksgiving, they're not open today, so they won't open back up until the next Monday. And the church, I guess, will normally kind of look out for him. And I said, well, what about the homeless shelter, which wasn't too far? And he says, well, I can't go in there either because there's mothers, or people with kids. And he was actually a registered sex offender. Now, it's a registered sex offender because when he was 18, he, like a lot of guys do, whipped out his stuff and urinated outside, which nasty, but not unusual. And a white woman and her child was walking by and she called the police on him. And they, arrested him, and he was charged as a sex offender because her daughter saw him and her urinating. So that's what they do to our Black men. So I say all that to say that young man didn't have anything. And he couldn't, I said, do you have any relatives or anything? He says, the closest relative I have is in Georgia. It's my grandmother, but the system won't let me leave because he was on parole. And there's just a lot going on for him. So I didn't have my car. My daughter, I didn't have a car at all at the time. My daughter did. So I texted her as I was talking to him. And I said, hey, can you bring me all the cheeseburgers and, whatever you can, just whatever you can bring. So as I'm talking to him, a couple more minutes, my daughter rolls up with this big giant bag of cheeseburgers and fries. And so I gave it to him and he was like, oh my God. He starts crying. You didn't have to do that. And I said, I did. And I said, but when I leave here, I'm going to go home. It's going to be warm and I'm going to have something to eat. And I said, you telling me your story. I said, I couldn't, be a good person to hear that and not try to do something. And mind you, I was struggling myself, but like I said, I was going to have somewhere to go. And so I say all that to say, just with that alone, I know we all know somebody who's homeless. That's a horrible thing to be, to not know where you're going to lay your head at night. And let alone where you're going to eat, where you eat. And this kid is 18 at the time, was in jail, recently got out. He's 23 years old, didn't have a lot of life skills, job skills, or any of that stuff. And he's just stuck. So I don't know what happened to him from that point. I pray that things got better and eventually he was able to go be with his grandmother. But that's, what homelessness is like. A lot of people are homeless because they can't afford to take care of themselves. And, he'll always have to answer for that. The rest of his life for urinating outside and a white woman called the police on him. So crazy.
Caught a case. And again, the homeless issue is going to be coming up. That is the next big issue. Now, before we go, I just want you guys to think about this. Use your critical thinking skills. Billions of dollars is going over to Ukraine and all these other programs, but they can't solve homelessness. And homelessness affects Black people more than any other group in the United States. Think about that for 1 second. 1 second. You have 61 members of the Congressional Black Talkers or Caucus. Yet, with 61 members, you could control the legislation, but yet they're doing nothing about it. And that the eviction moratorium federally has already been unconstitutional. People are being evicted. And again, I'm not against landlords. Not all landlords are rich, but they have to get paid too. And a lot of us as Black people, what we have done, we've taken advantage. Some of us that could have paid and just didn't pay, but you didn't realize you got to owe all that money at the end of the moratorium. You have, I think it's like 30 days to pay at least 25% of whatever it is you owe. But what did you do with that money? You got your hair done, you got your nails done, you got a new car, you went on trips, you did all these other things, and you want mercy. These are the things that we have to change within our community. So it's going to look bad, people. Like I said, if we thought we have problems right now, you just wait till after the midterms.
Absolutely, y'all. So we can be here forever talking. We love and appreciate y'all for staying here. Of course, we have a Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. If you want to donate to the channel, you can become a member. At the very least, like this video. And I want to say thank you to the members who are monthly faithfully contribute to this channel. And so we will be back. When I say we, I mean Walter and I, with Wealth Wednesdays with Walter. It will be fun and eventful. What we're going to talk about, only he knows that. So y'all stay tuned for that. That will be a live show. And as I said, in the near future, my daughter and I are going to try a live show, just talking about things from maybe a millennial point of view and a more seasoned woman point of view. And of course, it's a conversation for men and women to have. And occasionally we'll throw Donovan up in there because I like to sit back and watch him and her go at it. So we'll see y'all tomorrow. You guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Stay blessed.